So I spoke with a homeowner last week who was convinced that the market, it just needed a few more months to bounce back. And he figured he was going to wait to sell in the spring. But based on what the numbers are telling us right now, he's probably going to lose another 80 grand. And he won't even realize it until it's too late. What if I told you that waiting for the market to recover could actually end up costing you more than if you sold today? Because that's what's happening right now. We're not just in this quiet season. This isn't one of those sort of hang tight and it's all going to blow over kind of situations. That kind of thinking, that usual seasonal logic, it just doesn't apply here. We're dealing with something much different, something deeper. And if you're holding on to that idea that, thinking that the market is going to magically bounce back in the next few months, well, you really need to hear this. You see, inventory, it is climbing. Prices, they are still slipping. And immigration, which has always been a key driver of demand here in Vancouver, well, that's nearly completely stalled out. And meanwhile, a lot of sellers, they're still pricing their homes like it's 2021. They're stuck on these numbers that don't exist anymore. And that's not just wishful thinking. It's a mindset that's quietly costing them tens of thousands of dollars. And, look, I get it. No one wants to feel like they're taking a loss. But the truth is, if you bought before those highs, chances are you're not losing money. You're just not cashing out as much as you thought you might be. So in this video, I want to walk you through what's really going on. The part that most people, they don't see until it's too late. We're going to talk about why overpricing your property today could actually lead to a bigger loss down the road. Also, why renting your home out, well, it isn't the safe fallback that most people think it is. And what smart sellers are doing right now to move on. Well, other people, they're stuck waiting for a market that may never return. So here's what most sellers don't realize. Pricing your home too high, it doesn't just make it harder to sell. It can actually cost you more in the long run. You see, when you list your home, that first week is everything. That's when serious buyers are watching, and that's when you've got the most eyeballs on your property, the most interest. But if your price is off, and even just slightly, you're done, right? You're going to lose momentum. And you see, right now, with record high amounts of inventory, we're seeing buyers that have lots of options. They're not desperate. They're not overpaying. They are very patient. And right now, inventory is nearly 19% up compared to where it was last year. And meanwhile, prices are down 4.1%. Now, that's not seasonal, okay? That's not emotional either. That is cold, hard data. So when you list your home at pandemic era prices, you're not just out of alignment, you are completely out of the game. And here's what usually happens when you do that. You're going to get few showings, maybe some nice feedback, but no offers. And then a few weeks are going to go by and you're going to drop the price. But now, you've been on the market too long. The buyers, they've already passed it by. And at this point, it doesn't matter how good your home is because now it just feels stale. Eventually it will sell, but by the time you get your pricing in line with what the market is actually willing to bear, more often than not, it's going to sell for less than what you could have gotten had you had priced it at the current market value right from the beginning. And this is where most people, they make the second big mistake. They figure they're just going to rent it out for now, right? They're going to wait until the market comes back. And on the surface, I get it. That sounds great. But most sellers, they have no idea what they're actually signing up for. Renting might seem like the easy fallback. And for a lot of sellers, it feels like the safe move. You can hang on to the place, collect some rent, and wait for the market to bounce back. And on paper, it sounds like a smart way to buy some time. But here's what most people, they don't realize. It's rarely as straightforward as it sounds. Being a landlord, it is not passive. It's not just rent in, problem solved, right? You've actually dealing with maintenance, you're dealing with tenant issues, delays, repairs, and all of this while you hope that the person living in your property is going to treat it well, not destroy it, and then, of course, move out when they're actually supposed to. And if they don't do that, that's where things get really messy. If you're planning to sell and the tenant, they refuse to vacate, that can completely derail your sale. And also, if you've already bought your next place, which a lot of people do, and your current sale falls apart because of that delay, well, now you're in breach of contract. And here in BC, that is not something to take lightly. If you can't close on your next home because your current sale falls apart, the seller of that other property on the other end, they could come after you. They might sue you for damages, possibly for the difference in the sale price if they have to relist their home and then sell it for less, or for any extra costs that they're going to be stuck with. So, it can really add up very quickly. So before you know it, you're caught in this legal and financial mess that is very hard to unwind. And that's just the legal risk, okay? There's also the money side. You see, rents in Vancouver, they have dropped by almost 8% since last year. And meanwhile, mortgage payments, they've gone up. And so if you're banking on rent to cover your bills, make sure that you do the math, because any shortfall, that's going to be coming directly out of your pocket. Listen, even if everything goes smoothly, right? The tenant pays on time, there's no issues, there's still one big question that you've got to ask yourself. And that is, how long are you actually willing to hold on to this place? Because in this market, well, let's face it, it's not looking like a quick turnaround, not this time. According to Canada Mortgage Trends, Canada's population growth has basically stalled, right? Immigration is being capped and slowed down across the board, and that matters here. In Vancouver, immigration has always played a huge role in driving demand. So when that slows, so does the buyer pool. And when that demand drops, while listings keep rising, prices don't bounce back. Instead, they slide or they stay flat at the very least, and sometimes for years. So before you commit to becoming a landlord for the next 3, 5, maybe even 10 years, really think about whether that's the direction you want to go. And listen, if you're still wondering what your home is actually worth in today's market, not last year's price or what your neighbors might be guessing, but the real number based on what buyers are paying right now, I'll put a link in the description box below where you can use a quick home valuation tool. There's no pressure. It's just going to give you some good information because, sometimes that one step is going to be enough to clear the fog for you and help you make a better decision. All right, let's zoom out for a minute because, interest rates, they are still high. And while they might come down eventually, they're not expecting anything dramatic, no dramatic drops anytime soon. Lending is tighter, inventory, it keeps building, and buyer confidence, well, it's just not where it needs to be. There's also a lot of uncertainty right now, economically, politically, even globally. Inflation, it's still hanging around. Government policy, it keeps shifting, and no one's really sure where things are headed next. So naturally, buyers, they're being cautious. They're not jumping, and they're just waiting things out. And that's why this isn't just a slow season. It's not one of those spring will fix everything kind of moments. This is a market correction. And based on past cycles, these things, they don't bounce back in just a few months. Sometimes they take years, sometimes a number of years. Yes, prices, they might recover eventually, but it will not be next spring. And it might not even be next year. This could take 3, 5, or even 10 years. So you want to ask yourself, are you ready to carry this property financially and emotionally for the next several years just to chase a price that may never come back? Because if you bought before the peak, well, chances are you're still up. You're not taking a loss. You're just not cashing out at a fantasy number that you had in your head. And I get it, that can sound a little bit hard to hear, but that number that you had in your mind, it was never locked in. It was just a paper gain, not money that you ever actually held in your hands. And yes, I get it, right? It stings, but the longer you hold on to what could have been, the harder it becomes to actually move forward. And at some point, you've got to shift your focus from what the market used to be to what it actually is right now. And that's exactly what the sharpest sellers, they're doing right now. They're not stuck in the past. They're not clinging on to some number from 2021 or holding out for the perfect scenario that may never come. No, they're looking at the facts. They're understanding where the market actually is, and they're making smart, strategic decisions based on today and not last year's headlines. They know they're not going to win by waiting. Instead, they're going to win by acting. Listen, if you're moving into another home, here's the upside. You're buying at a discount too. So, you're making that trade in a market on both sides. And if you're cashing out, well, you're doing it before the next leg down, not after, which means you're staying in control instead of gambling on what might happen in 6 months from now. But here's the thing. If you think that selling in this market is tricky, buying, well, that is a whole different story, because most people, they don't realize that the system is stacked against them until it's too late. So make sure you watch this next video popping up right now, because it could literally save you tens of thousands of dollars. And of course, if you have any questions whatsoever about what we chatted about here in today's video, feel free to reach out. There is a link in the description box below. Otherwise, I will see you on the next video.